no feminists who have ever burned a bra, so let me get that straight.
There's almost no feminists who ever had anything that they needed to wear a bra for. Well, go ahead. Well, go ahead.
Likewise on your jockstrap, but in any case...
That was a clip from Morton Downey Jr.'s talk show featuring one of his frequent guests, famed attorney Gloria Allred. Gloria, who joins us from Los Angeles. How are you, Gloria?
Just great. Thanks for having me, Montel.
We just showed a clip of a little confrontation between you and Morton Downey Jr. on his show, and I got to ask you, I mean, and I remember, I don't know if I remember you being on his show or not, because I know when I started mine, I reached out to you the first year I had you on our show. You were a staunch warrior in women's rights, but you would go back and let this man say things that, I don't know, I think you've done smackdowns on my show for less.
Well, I always enjoyed being on with Morton Downey. It was a real challenge. He was a provocateur extraordinaire, and I loved the battle. All these years later, I've been practicing law for 38 years. I still love the battle. I still, you know, I'm still a warrior. And he was challenging, and so was his audience. I mean, being on the hot seat with Morton Downey was a real adventure. And also with his audience there, his fans supporting him and yelling and challenging. And, you know, even back in the 80s, I was a warrior for women's rights and for gay and lesbian rights. And, of course, his audience was not too friendly to that, neither was he. But I think we all made them think about these important issues.
I think that was the first time America had to actually step up to the plate and face the issues straight on. But I do have to ask you a question, you know, like myself. If you were on my show, I would come and see you before the taping. I'd be in the dressing room with you. We'd talk a little bit, talk about what's coming up. Was he the same guy off the set as he was on the set, or was there a side of him that no one ever got to see?
Well, he was very cordial and professional and courteous after the show when I had a chance to see him. He had a certain persona that worked for him on the show. I recognized that as a talk show host. That was the role that he was playing. Frankly, I don't know what his politics were off the show.
Gotcha.
But I never had any kind of personality issue with him. I realized he had to do what he had to do, and I was ready to do what I had to do to battle that. And he liked the heat, he liked the light, and of course he enjoyed his show.
I'm just wondering, if Gloria Allred had a SmackDown show right now, what would that be like? It could be just as outrageous. I know you keep it under control, though, Gloria, so thanks. Now, look, Mort's show reached a ratings high, and some say a ratings low, during an infamous episode featuring civil rights activist Reverend Al Sharpton and Roy Innis. Take a look at this.
That's a lot of crap. Now, look, brother, you have your time. That's a lot of crap. Brother, no. I got it.
Guys, I got to ask any one of you, I know, Gloria, you may not have seen that clip. That clip is a clip of Roy Innis actually toppling Reverend Al Sharpton over a chair onto the floor. Some think that that may have been the moment of demarcation. That's when a lot of press started attacking him, saying he was orchestrating things that made black people look bad and all that stuff, right?
If anyone orchestrated anything there, and I know he's still alive, is Roy Innis.
Gotcha.
Sharpton, we were never a big fan of. He was a great guest, but Roy Innis, who felt sort of big-footed by Al's rising fame and stature in the black community, he got up. There was no reason to knock him on his rear end. He did that intentionally, in my opinion, to draw attention to himself.
Gloria, did you see that episode when that little fight took place?
No, I didn't see it. It may be good television, but I don't think that's the appropriate way to treat anyone, any guest on a show or anyone who is not on a show.
But you know what struck me I don't remember a show before this. Donahue, remember, a lot of people don't have a perspective on this. When Morton Downey was on, there were only 4 talk shows on. It was Donahue, Sally, Geraldo, and Oprah. Yep. And Regis and Kelly, or Regis and
Kathy Lee
were
in the morning,
and they were considered a morning show. So when this came on the air, no one had these confrontations on television anywhere.
Right. Previous talk shows had been much more civil. There had been a little 1950s flavor to him. And Mort's was the first one where it was like a family argument. You could take the gloves off and go at it.
Even on the shows that you were on, Gloria, I remember seeing that Mort was smoking. And Jim, I want you to talk about this. When we talk about '88, this was a time that I was in the military then. We were pushing campaigns to stop smoking. The country wanted to stop. Was it his idea to just do this?
First of all, he was a terrible chain smoker. He smoked 5 packs of cigarettes every day of his life, right down to the filter. He smoked Merit Ultralights, which somehow was his rationale that, well, these are very light cigarettes, but I said more. And he would smoke them down, and he'd have them lined up on my coffee table when he'd come over to do some work or something, and he'd let them burn down from the top down. I mean, and unfortunately, that's what killed him, was lung cancer.
That's what took his life. So, Gloria, so now looking back on it, thinking about all of your visits to a show, if there was something that you wanted people to take away from this documentary when they reminisce about Morton Downey Jr., what would it be?
Well, that he loved a good debate. He encouraged a good debate. He wanted to provoke and incite his audience, and I think he was successful in doing so. He was extreme, he was outrageous, but he understood when he was on television. And all I can say is I enjoyed the opportunity to be out there in the court of public opinion, fighting the battle for women's rights, for gay and lesbian rights, and to let in the marketplace of ideas people be stimulated and decide for themselves whether those people for whom I advocated should enjoy equal rights or be subordinated, as apparently Morton Downey Jr. and his audience thought they should.
And as we're seeing now that the rest of the nation is turning against, one of the things about his success, that meteoric success, came with a lot of money, came with opportunities immediately, very quickly.
Yes.
He changed, or was that the real Mort being let out?
In my opinion, once we went into syndication and the show was incredibly successful, a lot of the personal demons that Mort had, that he brought to the table after 55 years, and he had some father issues and women issues and this and that, he felt liberated at some point and began to act out those demons, which he kept under wraps. He was the greatest guy in the world to work for the first 6 or 8 months, and then the demons started coming out fast and furiously, and he created a lot of problems for himself.
Well, it's really sad because at the end he passes away from lung cancer. But in the end, he almost dropped all of that confrontational fraud, if you will, and stepped forward and said, my legacy will be trying to help the next generation. I want to talk about that. Let me take a break when we come back, because I think you clearly pointed that out in that documentary, and that was part of the documentary that I liked the most. After all of what he had done, he, without a lung, testifies before Congress and says to kids, stop smoking. Gloria, I know you have to run. Thanks so much for joining us. I got to take a little break. When we come back, how Morton